was too smart for the class she was in and moved her up to the next class. Just so you know, do that every single time. To every parent, they will all come back. You say your child is too smart for the class. I was like,
That's too good.
Yeah, exactly. That was brilliant. How to win a parent. The church is complete. What it says. Oh, this is what it says. The church is in a completely bad place and a very good place at the same time. The numbers seem unsustainable and sharp enough to chase away people with high standards. Yet Ted resonates with very sharp people and has them coming back. They relate to his non-churchiness. They can tell that he is smart, yet genuine in his devotion in spite of his quirks. It gives them hope as men.
Dorothy, you're not supposed to laugh.
It gives them hope as men. The wives like that their husbands want to go to church again. It is becoming a very meaningful place for executives who had given up on hope on what church can mean for their families. As a church that seems to have obvious and glaring needs, it does not make you feel that it is needy. Yet deep down you know it is, but not in a draining, immediate, guilt-ridden context that we're used to. Deep down below the surface, the executives know that the church is far from what it can be, yet they know that it lacks the infrastructure to grow. They're proud of Ted, but not proud of it, like the whole of it, just yet. They know that they will be very picky on who they will introduce to it until they gain confidence in the whole of it. They know that they enjoy it, but will only give it so much time and investment before they'll have to meet their expectations related to a smarter organization. They know the ministry is likely not deep enough to support their family over the long haul, but it is just what they need right now. It can shore up the gaps in the short term and give them a bigger vision for what is coming. If they can do that, the stickiness will increase, and the unchurchy executives will get to be a part of something they never imagined but always dreamed, playing a significant role in building a church that impacts lives and makes a difference. That was our summary 7 months ago. Is that fair? Mm-hmm. Do y'all see that? Mm-hmm. I don't want to, for time's sake, we actually visited every other competitive church. I mean, competitive is not the right word. Alternative, like main churches. Like if you weren't going to go here, where would you go? And we gave them a summary of who they were. Right, CASAS, the Closet Baptist Megachurch, working to reinvent themselves as younger with an aging congregation that has no other option. Faith Community, the Wallflower Church of engineers and educators growing older and more diverse in a new building that they somehow converted to feel old. Catalina Foothills, the affluent, well-appointed Presbyterian church with the CNBC crowd in a flux while tweaking course, tipping their toe into more contemporary waters. Oro Valley Church of the Nazarene, the aging traditional Southern Baptist-esque church clinging hard to the past while adding a token contemporary service for young people. Who's this last one? Alive Church, the Everyman Church, packing it out in a tiny building, working really hard to win people over. Victory Worship Center, the well-produced professional worship, pastor-driven, charismatic church in the poor neighborhood, thriving and reaching young families of increasingly Latin descent. Fair?
The bridge?
I don't know. I had such a hard time with them the first time we visited them. But we missed them the last time. Sorry. I could tell you based on who they were like 7 or 8 years ago. At the time, they were basically the head cheerleader and the quarterback that were cool in high school. That's all they have to cling to. That basically reach a bunch of people that just wish they were cool in high school.
From marketing.
So that's some of the notes that we made as we were in on the experience is that we feel that Ted sanctifies imperfection. I don't even know what to do with that.
I don't know, you wrote it.
I know.
It's beautiful.
The moment you realize Jenny is Ted's wife, you realize how fledgling and insecure this church is and how remarkable this couple is. Like at the same time, you kind of go, oh my goodness, these two people feel like they're holding everything up. Like there's an imbalance here. There's not enough strong leadership here. But then you go, but man, these people are amazing. At least that's how I see it. So,
I had my mother-in-law read that out loud.
did it work?
No, she got Jennings maybe.
Right, you need to turn it into a pledge and have her say it every day.
Right? That's it. I'm gonna text her right now.
You say it together, whether get the kids involved, it'll be great.
So, in our executive summary, I read this thing to you guys about the church is a completely bad place and a very good place at the same time. So I'm just picking back up on that. Our summary of the who we are, so I gave all those other churches the sense of like who they are. Here's the who we are. The well-positioned, tiny, sharp executive church with highly relational pastor on the clock to turn it over. Meaning like you kind of felt like they're in this moment where it's time to just take the mountain, or not. Who are we called to be? The well-positioned, growing, sharp executive church with highly relational culture, growing by changing the way people see church. And I think that's highly compelling. And I think that matches, who this community is. The center of the net target, as we defined it, 35 to 40-year-old, college educated, often dual income, upwardly mobile, healthy, middle to upper middle class family, very busy yet seeking simplicity, a sense of purpose, and a drama-free church to build their families in. Upper to lower decker, but willing to get on the playing field to make it happen, meaning that's who we're really trying to go after. Now, it's the center of a net, so don't think that that's exclusive in its nature, but I think we have to be thinking about who are we building this experience for. The challenge is what we must overcome. Number one, marketing is off the tracks. The bridge between the community and the church is disconnected in the sense that the church is likely undefinable by search as well as logistically unfindable on your phone. And when you arrive at the website, the messaging is not quite compelling and the photography is too homegrown to instill confidence in this particular target audience. Again, understanding who our target audience is. Number two, they're not quite proud of it. While there are parts of the experience they love, meaning they, the people that come here on a regular basis, and would quickly, that they love and they quickly share with others, there are enough holes in the overall experience that they're not fully proud of the sum of it, putting at risk their willingness to invite people into it with confidence. Next, no one is thinking about the guest. The focus to pull off the service, the guests need to be unprepared for, from the lot into the in, the lot out. Next, the target core is important. This is an interesting challenge in the sense that the target who we're trying to reach, they're important people. This is one of your biggest challenges. You're great at reaching these people, but they're important. What's that mean? Well, that means they travel for work. That means that their lives are absurdly busy, right? They're important people. They're so important in their own worlds that the church can't count on them, yet they need to be able to count on the church. Like there's that tension that's there. The spiritual growth path has become too passive. The experience is very close to something that people would want to dive into and give their lives for, yet there's an overt feeling that the church is afraid to ask something of people. While it's nice, it's simultaneously a necessarily timid feeling. The lack of path to groups and service are confusing to those who are at the church that want to jump in and contribute to the newly found church they believe in. Next, the name is elusive. Catalina North sounds like something is missing. Regulars cannot say it confidently, and outsiders trip over it. The street sign further exacerbates the problem, and then it's not quite evident enough that it's even a church. Lack of a tangible vision and plan. The church has a clear sense of belonging. However, the people do not know where it's all headed. You get a sense that they're a very sharp clientele that the church draws will, in the long run, require a strong sense of who the church is becoming and what it's going to look like and what it's going to take to get there. They are in it for the long haul, but only if they get off dead center and begin to take the mountain. Lastly, the committed but stretched leadership team. Ted and Jenny are amazing and carry on an inordinate amount of weight. Not everything is covered, yet everyone is irreplaceable. There's no spare tire. There might be barely enough bandwidth to get things done for today, but there's not enough bandwidth to build a much bigger future at the same time. What are our assets? One, location and environment that is ideal for the church's potential. Two, a strong core of sharp people who see the potential. Three, foundation of Ted and Jenny's lives that have been poured into this place. Four, a fresh team of passionate leaders and some who have seen it through the long haul. Five, willingness to take hard looks at ourselves and redirect. Number 6, the drastic need for such a place as we could be in the community. Let me just put it this way. If we don't decide to build it, no one else is building it. No one else is building this. This church that could be here doing this. And that's the challenge. There's not a lot of great places to go to church. How are we doing on time? 20 minutes? Is everyone okay? Hang on, so I just covered a lot about your stuff. Any thoughts, questions, concerns about what I just said? Fair?
I have a kind of a question. It may be more personal based. We can talk about it later if we need. But from where I am, the position that I am at the church now, how do I like introduce myself to kind of present that strong leadership feeling that Ted and Jenny present?
Let's cover that after lunch, because you're sticking around, right, Kobe?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but great question.
That is a great
Starting
question.
by not dropping weapons.
Well, just for the sake of time, because some people are going on
Yeah.
vacation. Some people have to go back to
I
work.
just had, it's not a question necessarily, but when you said that this area is busy people, you know, you can't count on them, but they wanna count on our church.
Yeah,
I think that really runs into the volunteerism
absolutely.
of that, so that's gonna be a challenge too.
Catch 22.
This spirit, this is where we've got to grapple with the spirit of enlistment. There's part of why you live here is lifestyle. I mean, you can go do things. There are great places nearby to go. You can go outside and enjoy outside life. I live in Dallas. You don't want to be outside. Someone asked me who asked me what the weather was like outside of Dallas, and I was like, "What's the weather like in Dallas?" I'm like, "I have no idea." I'm like, "I don't know. I've been there, but I don't go outside. I get in my car and I pull in my driveway. My parking lot. My garage." So people actually want to be outside here. So that's part of the deal, is that at some point we're going to have to get to find where we're going to ask people to actually enlist. Hey, we have the opportunity to build something great here. Here's what we're going to ask of you to help be a part of that. Now, some people are going to have to do it on their own terms and go, look, I can't commit to being here all the time. But we've got to be able to get people to truly invest in their church. And I think they want to. I think they need clarity on what it is becoming that they're going to invest in. That's the challenge with reaching people that are up there. They don't invest outside of knowing what their return on investment is. So they have to go, look, here's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build a church that creates this experience. In order to do that, we need you more often. Right? Can you come help us pull this off? And you're like, if you will do this, here's what will happen. And they're like, all right, I'll try that for a couple of months. Will you give me 6 months where I just, yeah. And all of a sudden you're going to find out they're going to do it. And what happens is the Bible says, where your money is, there your heart is also. And part of the thing is it's not just money. Where your effort is, there your heart is also. Wherever you invest, your heart goes with it. So you're going to find that by getting people to actually invest more of their time and their energy, some people are doing a great job of it, but there are a lot of people that just aren't. By getting certain people to take that next level of their investment, that all of a sudden their heart's going to come with it too, and they're going to fall more and more in love with their church. And they're going to get more and more passionate about helping out. Ted and Jenny, they need people who can help them cover major blocks in the church. From where worship is concerned, where announcements are concerned, I need to be able to look at this church and see a strong structure of really sharp people. And the moment I see that, even if it's partly volunteer, the moment I see that as a visitor, the more I could see, like, it's not just the Ted and Jenny show, but it's this strong group of people that are trying to do something together. And that's the challenge. Normally, in a church, it would be a matter of going, what we got to do is we got to spend some money and build the thing. Well, You don't really have, I mean, you got a nice building. Your building's not really your problem. Your challenge is that you need concerted effort from some of your high caliber people to just help us build for the moment of new levels of traction. Get us to there. And then we've got to be able to build the process to start winning the people that are coming to go from being accepted to enlisted quicker. Because if we don't have that down, we're going to churn people out. Because people are going to come in here and go, I feel accepted. But after you're accepted for a while, and you're these people, after you're accepted for a while, if you aren't getting to invest, then your heart's not going to get in it. You need to be enlisted. And so that's part of the challenge. We've got to bring people towards levels of enlistment. So for us, it's about creating an onboarding process where people come to the church a couple times and they really like it. They're like, this is really cool. And then they go, hey, we want you to discover City View. What is that? Well, it's a classroom, a series of classes. And what do? We're going to cast vision. We're going to share with you what drives us as a church. You in? Yeah. Let's do this. Right? And then we begin to set it up to where now we can get them connected in a group, get them involved in relationship in a deeper level, in volunteerism in a deeper level, and just create a little bit more infrastructure. The biggest challenge from an outsider, especially this person that's up here, is feeling like the church doesn't have infrastructure. Like the church has Ted and Jenny. And if we can get to where the church feels like it has structure and that it has a culture of Ted and Jenny, meaning that everybody takes on there's that spirit that they take on. You're accepted. Richard.
After Matt and I were not hugging people. I don't know what's going on. So I hear you saying Scott should do the announcements. That's what I hear you saying. Go ahead, Rick.
Would you say that we tried to grow from the outside? Now we need to grow from the inside?
I don't know if you've tried to grow.
We tried to reach out, and we didn't do that very well.
What do you mean by that?
You know, we tried to increase ourselves by having a view for people outside, but we also need to have a view for growing people inside the church, into those positions.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It took me a while to wrap my mind around it. Yeah. I think we're great at getting people to come in here and go, wow, I liked church, and I didn't think I'd ever say that. But getting them, and let's just call that first base. We're great at getting to first base. Getting people to second base and third and rounding home is just something we're not as strong at doing. Right? We're not as strong at getting people to go, now, let's commit. Let's go deeper. Right? Let's take ownership in what it is we're trying to create together. And I think part of that is culturally, like, I don't think that there's certain people that are just going to be in your face. Remember the Hellfire and Brimstone people? Right. They're going to be like, cross this line today or else. Right? We're probably more like, there's kind of a line somewhere in there, and we hope somewhere you'll discover it. Like we're a little less direct, but I think that's okay. I think a more intellectual crowd actually expects it, but at some point we got to define some aspects of clarity, but we got to do it in such a way that makes it still more about relationships than about process. Yeah, I think that's the deal. It's kind of like, how do we put infrastructure into something without it being about infrastructure? So I'm going to read to you some of the thoughts that we began to write down as related to mission and vision. And this is really kind of an overview of where we see mission going. How am I doing on time? I got 12 minutes? At City View, we're called to be a different kind of church. A church where relationships speak louder than our traditional churchiness. Through Scripture, we see Jesus as someone that non-religious people wanted to be around. They went to parties with him, ate with him, and followed him. We want to be a church that non-church people can't help but like, which we believe is God's divine foresight as we're planted in a community largely unchurched and church people. Jesus is simply compelling. We build relationships because we love people and we want to experience Jesus in deeper and deeper ways. At City View, we're all about people. I'm going, like, that's to me more about the mission of this church than anything. It's about people. That's the thing that blows. See this and this might just me be coming in from the outside. When I experience Ted, Ted and Jenny, when I experience it, they are like no other pastors I've ever met.
That's what your mom says about me.
One, they're more likely to share their home with you, drink a beer with you, ask you about you, talk to you about you, and less likely to try and put rules and standards than anyone I've ever seen in church, ever.
Not be doing it correctly, so
But I think it's because you guys truly care about people. Am I wrong?
up until this summer, I like people. Right, exactly. Be more discriminatory. You're right, we actually like people.
I just feel like if we can build around being a church that's all about people, if we can build around that and build a culture around that to where it's not just you guys that are about people, but everyone's about people, and we enlist our regulars to also be about people and not just let them be the people that it's about. Does that make sense? Then I think that we can begin to change something. Now, I'm not saying this is a mission statement, so to speak. I gave you a vague description that needs to be boiled down. But that's part of that's part of our final work in this situation. Community filter, I mentioned the target audiences before. I just want to give you a picture of what I think it sounds like, it looks like. A family moves in, transplanted into the landscape of North Tucson. They're busy settling into work, school for their children, and the hustle and bustle of errands, shopping, children's events, family activities. Life is good, but not complete. Church is not out of the question, but it's simply out of focus. An outgoing coworker proudly speaks of City View, triggering a curious interest. A few weeks later, an unintentional drive-by puts a pleasant picture to the name. The church was attractive and stylish, more than they expected from their picture of church. It created a sense of vibrancy that increased curiosity. The building and its signage had a modern design savvy and was attractive to where they are in life. He saw the web address on the monument and made note to check it out. Online, City View comes across a smart, professional, and brand-savvy church that provides quick access to its mindset and ministries. It showcases simplicity and that the church has worked hard to do the thinking for them, taking the burden off the guests to figure it all out. It's apparent through the style and the content that it's not your parent church, yet they can see through the photography that the church is made up of people in similar walks of life that they can connect with in multiple generations. They can see that this is a church that's very much for today. It comes across as smart and well thought through, the opposite of slapping it together. As visitors to the site, they're able to see a window in the church culture, getting hints into preparing for their visit, seeing sample videos of the City View experience, all delivered in the context of design and real-world language that reaffirms that the church gets them. The family is fully intrigued. They prepare for a visit. It is an unusual Sunday morning for them, having grown accustomed to sleeping late without church in the routine. As they approach City View, they see signage with familiar branding that directs them to the service and provides accents of color to the campus that increase anticipation for what's inside. From the lot, the building entrances are well marked, and directional signage affirms each step. Outside of the entrances, they see smiling faces of various ages walking in and greeting at the doors. The greeters are infectiously happy, as if willing them to smile back. Signage directs them to the children's area and check-in. They're blown away by an amazing, attractive environment that shows visual investment in their family. The experience with taking their child to class reaffirms that the church is well managed and showcases a deliberate sense of programming for their children's spiritual education. The volunteer from children's check-in is full service, not only taking them to the child's class, giving them a quick overview of the church that shows them value before the volunteer walks them back to the lobby to enter the service. In the lobby before the service starts, they grab a cup of coffee as a relaxing on-ramp into the service. In a notably modern and warm environment, people nearby are fellowshipping, and an outgoing couple greets them to chit-chat and show them value. On the way into the service, they receive a single-page bulletin that again reinforces a sense of smart design, and they walk into a well-thought-through, high-standard experience where people are engaged in worship. Worship experience is more than they expected, not only in quality and intensity. Worship leaders were stylish and reflected where they were in life. They did not expect to be wrapped up in the experience, but they did in a comfortable and appealing way. The songs were easy to sing along to, with a sense of authentic passion, put them at ease to draw them in. Announcements were offered by a sharp, young professional showing deliberate value for what?
Rules me out.
Showing deliberate value for events and increasing the sense of all City View has to offer. Graphic support reimbursed a sharp aesthetic as the family began to say to themselves, now I know why people are talking about this place. The experience is wrapping them in long before the preaching begins. The minister thoughtfully introduces himself, and he begins to share stories in scripture in a disarming way. He is real and likable, truly authentic. He is obviously highly educated, but has mastered sharing complex truth in simple ways. The family has a sense that he gets them as people, speaking from a similar place in life. The thought-provoking ministry culminates in a challenge to take on the characteristics of the message. Further, they're also challenged to evaluate their walk with Jesus and take simple next steps to grow within the church. The minister wraps the sermon by making himself available after the service to get to know newcomers, showing impressive accessibility and that is unexpected and attractive. On the way out of service, they pick up their children who, with excitement, share what they learned and their hopes to come back. The couple that had engaged with them over coffee stopped to chat before heading out. Before they knew it, they had met Ted and a myriad of other people who they could not help but like. Walking to the car, the couple doesn't even have to say it. They know they have found something special. The family is blown away by what they just experienced. The church was succinct, it was meaningful and powerful. It was real, relatable, and made relevant. It was comfortable with their values as young, educated family, yet it ministered to their hearts in a way that they were not expecting, cracking open the door by which Jesus would become fully real to them and change their lives. They could not shake how much they liked the church. They came back time and time again, engaged in Discovered City View, and then in Connect Group and as volunteers. They saw their children grow to walk with Jesus as children and as students, begin to follow Jesus, growing in him, and loving others through service. They began giving and knitting their hearts deeper into the work of God. In doing all these things, they were becoming more and more like Jesus and more impactful in the world around them. The difference had been made in their lives, now they were making a difference in others. They attracted friends and co-workers as the work of God in them continued to grow. As a result, many would follow them to find City View the church that it is. The well-positioned, growing, sharp executive church, with a highly relational culture, growing by changing the way people see church. This is the vision of City View, to deliver on this promise, this experience, time and time again. It is to build momentum through consistency, to focus on people, reliance on prayer, and the guidance of the Holy Spirit. The long-term culmination is the church that impacts North Tucson and beyond. This is how we become who God has called us to be. It requires us to be deliberate. It requires us to be focused on the one and not being satisfied to be part of the 99. It puts us as members, as stewards of a church on mission with Jesus to seek and save that which is lost within our walls and beyond. It's what it looks like when we're fulfilling our mission as a church. To build relationships because we love people and want them to experience Jesus in deeper ways. Because at City View, we're all about people. So, what we defined as the stage the church was at when we got here 7 months ago was that it was at safety and security mode. What that meant was, it was interesting. You guys had staff, but yet they seemed more exhausted than ever. It just, compared to times that you had less staff. Does that make sense? And so we were going, look, this is whatever's going on, it's taking, part of this, the deal is this, when you're trying to build an organization there, if you wanna take this church, you're gonna take this, if you wanna take this church to 10x, say 1,000 people, just so you know, I never thought that was gonna be a problem. But the infrastructure is the problem. Because we've got to be able to multiply this. If I want to be able to multiply this 10x, there's 3 things that we've got to do. Winning people over, I'll call it that. Winning people over. That, we have to win over 10 times the people that we're winning over today. Okay? That's a growth function of winning new people. It's really your marketing function, but it's also something that Ted is great at doing. Do you guys believe that Ted can win people over?
Yeah.
All right, Ted is uniquely gifted to win people over. Okay, but then there's also team building. In order to have a church that reaches 10 times, you have to have a 10 times team. You've got to be able to build your infrastructure 10 times to reach 10 times the people. Which means you've got to have someone who's focused on, I'm going to build this team so that you can go win these people. Because if you are freed up to win people, you will. But if you are spending all your time trying to make sure someone's greeting, make sure things are happening that are obvious. I mean, Jenny's doing social media and graphics. And to be really honest, better than others that were supposed to do it in the past, but it's one more thing that you guys are doing. And at the end of the day, you need 10 times the finances. If you want to grow to 10x as a company, you've got to be able to win 10 times the people, build 10 times the team, and have 10 times the budget. And I'm like, how can one person or even a couple do all of those jobs at once? Can't. And so this is where we saw this organizationally as being in safety and security mode, because at the end of the day, Ted and Jenny are literally just bouncing around trying to do all 3 of these jobs. And at the end of the day, the need for having someone to go, I'm going to build the team that it's going to take to get this. And that's partly administrative, but it's a growth-minded leader who goes, I'm going to help put this thing together. Ted, you just get ready for Sunday and you love on people and you hang out with people during the week. I'll take care of everything else. Well, we're much closer to that with Steve doing what he's done over the last 7 months than we were back then. Back then, these guys, you were having to be involved in everything. I'm telling you this as if you didn't know it.
You okay?
Yeah, is that fair? Is that ring true?
Better now than
So,
never.
well, what do you need when you're in safety, to get out of safety and security mode? You need consistency. You need relationships and you need discipline, right? And that's how you grow out of this. So we began to say, look, here's what we need to do. We need to start shoring up our experience challenges. Now, I haven't come back in 7 months. I don't know what it looks like. But I've gotten word that we're more likely to greet people today. Is that fair? No?
Would you repeat that?
Absolutely.
Or more what?
That we're more likely to greet people today?
I don't know.
We don't have a green team.
I think it's maybe slightly more intentional among some people, but I don't think as a church, I don't think it's intentional yet.
I think we've grown, Scott, I think we've grown closer as a smaller group.
We have, and I think that of that group, that those people have, after, kind of hearing about some of the stuff, that we say, okay, we're gonna be more intentional about meeting and greeting people that we haven't seen before, but it's almost organic,
Really?
yeah.
Did you not come here for a Sunday?
I did, 7 months
You did?
ago.
Oh, 7 months ago.
Yeah, I'm just saying, so in other words, we've given a list of things to do, but let me just say, some things have happened in the last 7 months that's probably caused the church to not be able to focus on it, like,
Yeah.
so honestly, this meeting that we were supposed to have today, it was supposed to happen like five months ago.
Right.
Like, this is a conversation we were supposed to have 5 months ago, we didn't have it 5 months ago, why?
And to be fair, we are doing a better job of greeting because Ted has asked some of us to be intentional about greeting. But it's not like, it's not like a process, it's not like there's a greeting system.
Yeah.
I just-
We're still looking for that right point person, because that's kind of one of the keys, and so we talk about it, we're still looking for them. You can't quite create that person as much as you'd like to.
It may be more than one person. The team.
I think that's part of what we're gonna have to do, though. I think at some point, we just have to go, look, how do we make do? How do we get to there? What's gonna have to happen? How can you help? How can I help? What if I do this? Right? I mean, you've got this kind of, I wrote this, congregational ownership as well. And it's time that we get people to enlist. We've got to get people to enlist. And there's a scriptural, there's a story in the Old Testament where Nehemiah goes and he sees that the Jerusalem, the old city, had been just beat down and destroyed. And he's like, oh man, I want to rebuild this thing. And he gets permission from the king to go rebuild the thing, but he basically gets a whole bunch of people to build it with him. And he basically says, like, look, you're going to build your part of the wall, you're going to build your part of the wall, and they're in the middle of being attacked by enemy armies, and everyone's just doing their job to build their part of the wall. Well, a great part of that is that the reason that they were so invested in that part of the wall they were building is because their house was attached to that part of the wall. And so part of it is like, that's the same thing that's happening here. This is their spiritual home, but they've got to build it. Like, it isn't on you to build. I mean, what if Nehemiah would have gone, all right, I guess I'm going to grab a person and we're going to start building it all. But no, we need everyone to build it with us. If you're not going to build your part of the wall, you know what, then maybe this is not the right time and the right place. So, and I'm not trying to say that we need to force people into an exodus. What I'm trying to say is that it's time to call people to this thing that it can be. It's time for us to take a step into the church that we're going to be. In order to do that, we're going to have to figure out how to do it. I believe that we can kick you two out of the meeting right now, and we can solve greeting in about 15 minutes, if it's still broken.
So we can go eat.
Well, so what I'm hearing you say is that we can't wait. We can't wait for that one person that's perfect, that's going to step in and take over. We have to mutter through with what we have, and somebody else maybe will eventually step, but we need to start somewhere.
Yeah. We just need to know who we can get. And part of the challenge is not even getting this meeting to happen.
Yeah. And here, a couple of comments. When you talk about getting people to invest, the challenge that this church has is they have to get twice as many people to invest to get the same amount of work that someone else would be able to do with half of that number of people, because of schedules, right?
Yeah.
Just because people are gone, and it is a busy group of people. John's gone all the time, I'm gone all the time. I mean, you look around, and these people are on the move, right? So I think it takes twice as many, or 3 times as many people to invest what they have available to get the work done that you need to do. But the other thing that I just kind of keep thinking about as we talk about where we're at, where we want to go, where we've been, all that stuff. Very similar to in my business is the vision for where my company, or wanted to take my company, outgrew the foundation that I had laid in the beginning. And I had continued to try to build on this foundation something this big. And I finally, as it started to like crack here and there, I realized, wait a minute, this foundationally, we're wrong. And that means I gotta tear some walls down. And I tore some walls down. And I made some big decisions to get rid of some people, and I knew it was gonna cost us to do that. But I had to get it back down to the foundation, because continuing to build on that terrible foundation was never gonna be successful for me. And then I had to go back in and broaden that foundation out and make that something that we could then build on, even though it made us go backwards for a little while. And I kind of feel like that's where we were at. We had this great idea, and we were gonna build on this foundation, and we had some people in here, but it wasn't right. And it started to crack and fall apart. And you know, we all know where we're at. So now I think we have to think about where we want that to go, and what foundation is required to get it to there. And if we're gonna do an add-on later, then let's plan for that in the foundation too, that when it's time to do that, we can plan to add foundation to it.
It's good.
And get this thing to where it needs to be. So I kind of think that's the level we're at. So I think it goes deeper than just getting people to invest. I think it really goes into saying, what does the foundation look like? Where do we need this to go? And I hope that's what we get out of today, is some direction on what that needs to look like.
For me, here's why I need us to do. I need us to be able to count on a Sunday worship experience that wins people over. I need your parking lot experience to work. I need your car distribution to be right. Okay?
Can we define and document what that looks like? Is
Yeah,
that what we have?
That I just read it. Now it's just a matter of, if we agree to it, let's define the standards that are associated with it.
Yeah.
That's the process that we're going through. I need that to work. Next, I need them to know where to enter, not just because there's a sign, but because there's a happy person on the outside that's a human sign that makes it obvious. I need them to see energy taking place before the service and people fellowshipping. I need it. It has to happen, right? And I need worship to be simple enough, not complex, not a rock show, like still cool, but simple enough to keep people engaged and to be rich and personal. I need an announcements person that people will want to follow. Your rule is that is either someone who I either want to be, like can be older than me, but I want to be that person one day, or it's someone I want to hang around with. It's got to be one of those two. I need Ted to do what he does and what he has done with simply the course correction of being a little bit more overt with the challenge and being a little more tied in with the tangents. A little bit. I'm not trying to take Ted away from Ted. I need the call for what we're going to do, what your next steps are, to be remarkably clear. I need you to have some kind of onboarding class so you can enlist me and indoctrinate me. I need that. I need that moment where I hear your values and your mission and your vision and you go, will you espouse those with us? I'm asking you to commit. And you go, I'm going to commit. You actually need that. So that's something we've got to add to the mix. I need all of this more than I need advertising right now.
And I will say that to do that now, before we grow, will feel awkward as can be. Because it'll be like, well, what are we doing this for? For these people that are already coming here, right? It'll seem very weird. I think if we launch into that, suddenly we have greeters out here and the people that are coming will be like, whoa. And so I think it's, right? So I think it's something that has to be communicated that, this isn't for y'all, because you're already here. This is because we want to provide a better experience for those that are coming.
The heart for the one, Jesus went on after he told this, and he talked about the lost coin, about searching for the lost coin. He talked about the prodigal son. He did back-to-back analogies, all about really the same thing. Who was the jerk in the prodigal son?
The brother.
The older brother.
The older brother,
That was Jesus' point about the people that were already the 99. You guys are freaking jerks if you don't go looking for the one. Your brother is lost. Be on the lookout. You have no idea how long some grandmother's been praying for someone who's walking through our doors on Sunday morning. We've got to win our church to win the people that are coming. So that's, we got to take whatever we get in these meetings and we just finally boil it down to and go, okay, now it's time, it's ready. Now we got to take it to the next circle. Then we got to take it to the next. All of our volunteers need to hear this and know this. Next, then we've got to take it to our congregation. We need to teach our congregation why we're doing what we're doing. Until we've created a culture out of it and gotten everyone on board about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So, but that part of the process got totally stymied. That was what we were hoping to do like in July and August. But instead, we were rebuilding the breach. Yeah.
I would like to say something that's rather personal, but this, to me, is an answered prayer. Because when we had our crisis, and I've been with the church through everything that Richard has said, do we want to stay with this church since we've had this little crisis? Or do we want to, go somewhere else or what? And Lee and I prayed and prayed and prayed. We had other people praying for us. And finally God said, you need to talk to Ted. Because I had some very feelings that I really wanted answered that I had been praying about. And I talked to Ted and Jenny one day and I told them exactly what I had thought. And I felt that our church was broken. And we used to have a foundation. And I think it kind of went like Scott said. To me, I wanted a basis, a rock, a foundation. And I wanted a vision. Remember I was telling you that? And I wanted a vision of, so if we stay, what do you have for this church to go on to? Is it something that I want to invest in, or is it something that's just going to be same old, same old? And I have prayed and prayed. We decided to stay on what Ted said and Jenny. And I still have prayed and prayed that we get on the right track. And you and your vision are helping me along that way.
Praise God.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is why God put this church here. This church should, I can't, when you think about Catalina North, when you think about City View, this church isn't put here to be 100, no, this is not saying we're bad because we're at where we're at. This church wasn't it wasn't put here to reach 100 people. This is a 1,200 people in a weekend church. It might be 4 services. But at the end of the day, you don't get there until you get Sunday services right. Well, you don't get Sunday services right by making them work harder. Huh? Come on. And at the end of the day, if...
All right, Toby, you can...
At the end of the day, if we don't... And it isn't just, the magical hire. There's no silver bullet. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, I will say this. If there's 2 ways you can hire someone who can be that team builder or be that one, you either bring them in and go, help us invent this. Well, I will tell you this, the person that invents it is rarely the person that maintains it.
True.
Like that person who likes that will create it from scratch, but then will stay with it forever, like that doesn't even exist in most humans. Like you have builders and you have maintainers. I don't mean to sound like maintaining is not a good thing, but
Great, we call them trappers and skinners.
there you go. That's good.
Yeah.
We call them visionaries and integrators.
That's good. So here's the deal. I would rather us as a team take the burden
of being the visionary and define what it should be and could be and build and orchestrate what it should look like and how it should flow. And we spend all the time that it takes to take this kind of narrative that we've done and build it into the detail and what is it going to take to do that, and what's the backstage. Like I just described the front stage to you. Like what's the backstage that's going to take to pull that off?
How many greeters do we need?
Exactly, we're going to do that. But I think we could sit around and build that if we needed to, because then all of a sudden, if the right person that comes along and we go, hey, we just need you to build upon this versus invent it, then I think that that's a great place to be. And I think that God often is just asking us to do whatever the next step is, and He will bring us the right person at the right time. So if the right person isn't here today, we shouldn't put on our brakes and go, well, until the right person gets here, we're not going to do it. We just have to take, we need to take our part of the wall and start building. And when the right person gets here, then we can go, all right, great, here's how we can use your help. And they'll go, great, I can help that way. And it works. So, yes, this is a challenge. These core needs are there, but we can't wait till the magic happens. We just have to start building the wall. And how does that happen? Well, it happens as a small group of people go, okay, so let's hash it out. Let's talk it through. Okay, let's get it all lined up. Now we have our standards, our roles. Do you know what? There's such a thing as a unmarked connector. What's that? It's a person who's volunteering to just roam around and meet new people in the foyer before service. They don't have a name tag, they're not at a door, no one even realizes they're volunteering that day, but they are. Okay, that's a role. We got to define roles, responsibilities associated with roles, structure, or how are we going to get people to do it? How often are we going to ask them to do it? How much is too often? You know how we said that sometimes church is my life versus we're not going to ask them to do it every week, ad infinitum. We're going to go, no, you work a month and then you're off a month. Or something like that. Like, we've got to build the ground rules for those types of things. And to the best of our ability, it needs to sync up with your vision and what you think is right. But you need to be, I would dream of doing it in a hands-off way. Where you get to not have to do it. But you get to go, I heard the plan, I like it. Let's do it. Oh, I have one thing to add. What if we did that? Oh, great idea, Ted. Thanks. But we don't have to need you to be able to solve the greeting problem. Because that's the biggest problem. Is that you are required to solve everything, but this is a body of believers, and the way the body of Christ was meant to work is that we would work together to build the city.
And we can do that if we begin to act with purpose. And which is going to take, and I don't know who those people are, if it's this group of people or if there's another group of people, what that is, but I think at some point, really, we have to stop talking about stuff and start doing something. I mean, the first thing we need to do is do something. and I think, and if that means, if what you're talking about is us getting together and putting skin on the bones of this thing, then it takes a group of people that commit to getting together, and it's not going to happen in an hour over lunch. It's going to happen over, okay, bring your brains, and we're going to drain them a little bit for a half a day.
Yeah.
And all we're going to talk about is, what does greeting look like? What is that? And we're going to get all the people together and say, okay, what does that look like? And we start putting the skin on the bones, and then we put a process together for that, of what that looks like and what it's going to take and what resources we need and all that stuff. I mean, that's what I feel that's really the stage that we're at, which is like there is no foundation, and we've got to create. The foundation has been those two people.
Yeah.
Just like you said. And that's where I need to get it. And I'm hoping at the end of this that we have kind of said, okay, this is what it's going to take. These are the people that are going to be involved, and this is when they're going to begin to meet. And and this is the timeline. By December 15th, we have a greeting thing laid out.
In baseball, going back to baseball, because everything is about baseball. The Moneyball, that movie with Brad Pitt, taught us that the team that wins is not the one that hits the most home runs. It's the one that hits the most base hits.
Yep.
If you just get on base, like they literally are looking for people that can get on base. Oh, he gets walked more than anybody. Hire him. Like, because he gets on base. Because of his size of his strike zone. Get him in here. If we can define what a base hit looks like, and just start getting consistent with that, we win. I'm not marketing adverse. I love promotion adverse. I can't wait to start pushing this out there. But if we start pushing this out there before we're ready in here, we're going to burn through our opportunities and miss our big opportunity. But I don't think it's going to take us a long time. I think we got about 3 months worth of work of us going, all right, let's start defining it, owning it, and rolling it out to people where everyone takes a high level of ownership in it. And let's do it as we're changing the name. And let's do it as a rallying around the name change that we are going to be City View with a view for our city. And we're going to change the reason we're doing everything. Because it's all about people. And we're building a place where unchurched people can come and experience the love of Jesus in a way that isn't creepy or weird, but they can't put words to it, but they can't stop liking it. I'm like, we can do that.
I call it unlike any other. And we can be a church that's unlike any other. That is a clear, that the people that come here, that it resonates with are like, that's it. That's what I really think that's what we're going to get to, because we do have that unique kind of take as a church. It's what draws me. It's what I like, and it fits perfectly with what you talked about earlier. And I think once we get some skin on the bones of this thing, I think at that point we need to put a little pressure in the vessel and see where the cracks are, instead of just going nuts. But we do have to have some people for the greeting people to greet. So you got to get a little bit of that in there, and put a little bit of pressure in and see where, okay, well, we need to fix that or whatever. But I think it needs to be very intentional and very purposeful with how we move for the next, I think it's the next 6 months of really doing it. And then hopefully at that time, if the systems are in place, then the systems run.
There's an analogy sometimes I use when, this is kind of an old school way of describing it, but you used to have in an office environment, you used to have a server in like a server closet somewhere, and it would be connected by cables to like a hub where everything could connect. And then that would run through cables to a wall, and then your computer would plug into it. Well, sometimes you couldn't get connection with the server, and so good troubleshooter, they would go, well, I'm going to take this computer and I'm going to plug it directly into the server. Because it might be that my computer's a problem. Well, no, it works with it. There's a connection problem along the way. There's about 8 different places where you can highly disconnect with me. And if we can just make sure that the connections are clean in all of those areas, this church will be growing. There's no, to me, if the problem is not with the server, meaning the guy who's on the stage can't connect with people. He can connect with just about anybody. So you don't have a server problem. There are churches that have a server problem. You don't have that. You have an infrastructure problem. And if we can get the infrastructure problem solved, then the server can spend its time just disseminating information, which is what it's awesome at, instead of having to think about everything. And that's, to me, the dream. How do we build that? To me, I'm like, yeah, I wish, I want you to staff up. I want you to hire people right now. Why? And not because I think we found the right people. Because I will say this, I'm not sure that hiring traditional church people is ever going to work here. Because
honest to God,
You say that like 4 years ago.
yeah, and Ted and I have had this conversation, and I try really hard not to hire traditional car people, because I'm not a traditional car company. And the same thing here, I think if that's the experience that you wanna present, unlike any other, well, then you can't hire church people like every other.
But the temptation is, you've been a successful salesman at X dealership, come
Right.
on over to mine.
In most cases, from our experience, like for example, we have a highly specialized business. When you're highly specialized, it changes everything. When you are run of the mill, then that works. A wrench over there works over here. But when you have a specialized engine, then you're metric, and they're all, what's the opposite of metric? Standard, whatever.
I get a question, you're called engineer.
Empirical, thanks. I knew it was something. Right? It's like you guys are highly specialized. You have to, you have to drink your Kool-Aid. I mean, you've got to get this, because this is a completely refreshing take on church. It's a refreshing church.
And this is where you wanna go, Ted, 10 times.
Whatever the number is, yeah, we'd like to be effective.
And I think,
It's like if we get it right as a foundation, we'll be training up people or replacements.
that's right.
Yes,
That's
oh,
If
absolutely.
we bring people in from the outside that have no clue what's going on, then we will be training up our replacements.
Absolutely.
That's well said. Most churches spend all their time trying to make it big. And when you try to make it big, you never make it good. But if you try to make it good, it becomes
It'll get
big. That's just the thing. So it's right now, it's just like, how do we make it good? How do we consistently hit base hits on a Sunday morning? In the 8 areas that we have to do it, where there's no gaps.
To the demographic that we know we connect with.
That standard, to their standards, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's that hard. But that to me, there's a lot of work that has to be done. To me, it's just that it's the infrastructure work. It's not hard. It's time consuming. It requires us to answer a lot of questions. How do I make an experience feel effortless to the outside person? By spending a ton of time thinking and putting effort into thinking about it so they don't have to. Otherwise, if you don't think about it, then they have to. So someone has to think about it. And if we outsource it on our visitors, they're never going to come back. But if we take ownership on it, we'll create something they'll want to come back to.
I nominate Steve to think it through.
So there's a lot of components here. One, we have to define it. Refine it. I mean, like both. And there's some rough definitions here. We've got to cull through this and refine it and be able to be more clear, more succinct. But then we got to be really specific, and we've got to call people to it, and we have to help them understand what it can be. To me, that's exciting. I honestly, I don't think people are here for lack of belief in what it can be. I think people instinctively know this is great. It's just not hitting its stride, and I don't know why. But I like it. And like I said in one of our notes, it's like, if it's really touched you, would have a hard time going in another place without feeling like it was a sellout. Because it's just, where else are you going to find it? You can go somewhere and get church normal. But I don't know how effective that is, except to win other church people over to it. This is actually something that actually can change an unchurched community to actually starting to love church and finding Jesus to be really important again.
It's pretty exciting. Yeah, be faithful to people's, oh, go ahead, Steve.
I was gonna say,
Since I nominated you.
I think maybe we're going to the same spot. I know we have some people with some schedules to keep. Would this be a great break point to continue to talk and eat and let people, if they need to get on with their day, take advantage of this?
Yeah, I think so.
Very good. Let's